Point with Brian Fisher.
Hi, and welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. Talking with Robin just before the end of the last segment. Number to call, 888-589-8840, about the McDaniel Cochran campaign here in the state of Mississippi. Two sound bites I want to play from Sean Hannity last night. Sean Hannity now devoted part of a segment last night to discussing this race down here in Mississippi. And I want to give you this update. By the way, there is a study by two researchers from City University of Hong Kong and Indiana University who found that corruption in Mississippi was tops among all states from 1976 through 2008. In other words, they're saying this is the most corrupt state politically in the country and has been for, 32 years. So maybe no surprise that we're running into this kind of a thing. Now, Haley Barbour's PAC, the Mississippi Conservatives PAC, has done a lot of this work on behalf of Senator Cochran. They're the ones that are pouring the money into the black community to pay to get out the vote or to pay for votes, according to Stevie Fielder, who's sticking by his story. He's still saying that what he said was the truth. He's afraid to say much more in public because Senator Cochran is threatening a lawsuit. We'll see how all of that plays out. But Haley Barbour's PAC is in trouble with the FEC for failing to maintain their reporting requirements. Federal Election Commission is looking into whether Mississippi Conservatives PAC violated campaign finance law in its bid to help reelect Mississippi U.S. Senator Thad Cochran. The FEC, which monitors spending in federal elections, notified the Political Action Committee. Now, remember, this is the one that produced the radio ads, the race-baiting radio ads, the race-baiting flyer. This is the group likely that was behind, as according to Salim Baird, who gave the money to, or maybe it was Scooby-Doo Warren, the Democratic operative. The walking around money also came from this same PAC, and now they're in trouble with the FEC that monitors spending in federal elections. They notified the Political Action Committee that it may have failed to file one or more 24-hour reports which track last-minute independent expenditures. Political action committees are required to file the reports within the 24-hour window for any expenditures $1,000 or greater made between 2 and 20 days before an election. The regulation is meant to increase oversight as elections draw near. The FEC also pressed the PAC on $15,000 it paid to Winning Edge, a political consulting firm based in Dallas. The date listed for the expenditure did not match an entry on a schedule that the PAC filed. So this is part of Haley Barbour's lobbying empire, and this particular PAC is run by his nephew, Henry Barbour. Now, the reason for this is people say, look, if you're donating to a political action committee, your donations have to be reported. Your name has to show up on an election form. So a lot of these people will wait to the last minute, then make a huge donation at the last minute so you can do some last-minute campaign stuff and slide it under the reporting requirements so nobody finds out who gave the money until the election is over, and then it is too late. So it's a way that they kind of jerry-rig the system. And the reason the FEC has this requirement, if you spend money, you got to report it within 24 hours. And that's to prevent kind of last-minute shenanigans. And you think about all of that get-out-the-vote effort at the very end of this campaign in the African-American community, and a lot of expenditures from this PAC, and what the FEC saying is, look, you weren't reporting some of your expenditures within that 24-hour window. Some of them we can't even match up at all. Now, Chris McDaniel claims, his camp claims that they have found over 3,300 ineligible votes. Those are people that voted twice. Those are Democrats that voted in the Democratic primary on June 3rd and then voted again in the Republican primary on June 24. That's illegal. You can't do that. Those votes don't count. And you can identify exactly how many people did that by looking at the polling books. Here's a piece by Matthew Boyle on Breitbart. Matthew Boyle done a lot of great reporting on this race. State Senator Chris McDaniel's campaign told Breitbart News that the conservative firebrand is already halfway to finding enough allegedly ineligible votes counted to launch a legitimate challenge to the results of last Tuesday's GOP primary runoff against incumbent Senator Thad Cochran. With more than half of the state's counties and many of the state's African-American majority counties, where many of the ineligible crossover votes are suspected to have occurred, still uncounted. In other words, the fields are white on to harvest in some of the counties where they haven't even looked at the vote totals. McDaniel's team told Breitbart News he has at least 3,300 ineligible votes counted. That's just from looking at voters who voted in the June 3rd Democratic primary, then crossed over. On the ground, our volunteers have found 3,300 irregular votes after examining fewer than half of Mississippi's counties. And that total does not include the Delta counties, which are heavily African-American in makeup, and even the more than 18,000 absentee ballots, which are sure to include many more irregularities since they were the prime focus of Cochran's Get Out the Democratic Vote strategy. This is according to Noel Fritsch, who's a spokesman for the McDaniel campaign. So they haven't even looked at the absentee ballots. Remember, we had that story early on about notaries public. I don't know if it's notary publics or no. It ought to be notaries public, but I don't know. Never heard anybody make it into a plural. There are some notaries public getting absentee ballots, filling them out for people, and then notarizing them, and then turning them in. Of course, all that's flatly illegal. Some of that could be exposed, and they haven't even started in on the absentee ballots yet, and they haven't even counted half of the counties in Mississippi. And some of the ones that they haven't counted yet are some of the ones where you most likely would find illegal or ineligible crossover voting. And then it goes on, this Breitbart piece goes on to talk about this case with Stevie Fielder, his charges that he was paid to buy votes. He was given money to buy votes. He's still sticking by his story. Fielder told Breitbart News in brief Tuesday afternoon that he stands by everything he said to Johnson, something he confirmed when reached late Monday as well, and that he's talking to his wife about next steps before he comes out with any more information or does more interviews, given the level of legal threat from the Cochran campaign. And one other thing about vote buying, I'd misremembered this, did some more research. Remember the chairman of the Democratic Party, Ricky Cole, he's been a guest on this program. According to the Clarion Ledger, Ricky Cole said back in June 17, large sums of cash are being passed around. These guys are old school, walking around money, vote buyers. This is the chairman of the Democratic Party in Mississippi. This isn't somebody in the Tea Party, not somebody that's Republican, not somebody that's part of the vast right-wing conspiracy. He is the chairman of the Democratic Party, and he says people are out there buying votes. That's his expression. They are vote buyers. This walking around money that came from the Henry Barber PAC, that walking around money, according to Ricky Cole, is being used to buy votes. Now, Hannity had two quick sound bites last night. Clip number 2, Hannity addressing the Mississippi race last night.
There's also allegations of walk-around money. You have a Baptist pastor, apparently has a lot of credibility, saying that the Cochran campaign was paying, $15 a vote?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You have this pastor, his name is Reverend Steve Fielder, very well-known pastor. He lives in Meridian, Mississippi. He's accusing Cochran of buying the black community's votes. He says, first he said this to an independent journalist, and then he says that he was part of this scheme, and he also goes on to say that Cochran's camp paid thousands of dollars to Democratic voters in the black community, paid them each $15 to go and vote and support Cochran.
So that story now is completely broken containment. Even Sean Hannity is talking about these allegations. Again, this is one guy's word, and we'll see if maybe Senator Cochran's going to respond to that today. And I think Senator Cochran could put all this to bed. He could put all this to bed if he would bring some of their campaign workers before the cameras who were given cash money. Everybody admits that cash money was handed out to people in envelopes. And if Senator Cochran could furnish some of these campaign staff that were paid money to go knock on doors, have them come, be interviewed by journalists. This is what Stevie Fielder was willing to do, had a lengthy interview with journalists about why he did what he did, how did it work, what did you do, when did you do it. He was willing to undergo an extensive interview to answer questions. Now, Senator Cochran, his people have got to know who at least some of these people were. Bring 3 or 4 of them before the cameras and let them be interviewed by journalists so they can tell their story that, yes, we got this walking around money, and no, we did not buy votes with it. Here's what we did. We went in, we knocked on doors, or we did this. We rounded up people and drove them to the polling place in our vans, but we didn't give them any money. You know, they can put a lot of this to bed if they'll bring people forward who can tell their own personal stories as kind of rebuttal witnesses to what Stevie Fielder said. And so far, we haven't heard anything from them. Let's play clip number 3 very quickly.
If someone tells you
These
that
are radio
by voting
ads.
today you cannot vote in November, it's just a Tea Party bald-faced lie. Are you going to let the clock run out on today? By not voting, you're saying, take away all of my government programs, such as food stamps, early breakfast, and lunch programs. Millions of dollars to our black universities, everything we and our families depend on that comes from Washington will be cut. Mississippi will never be the same. The question is, will you spend $5 on gas to vote, or allow the Tea Party to set us back to the good old bad days? Against the Tea Party. Vote Thad Cochran.
Just to be clear, they are the owner of this radio station, because that's race baiting, is saying that this came directly from one Republican group that was supporting Cochran against another Republican?
Well, he told us who wrote the check, and at the end of each of those ads, it has to be, connected to a group, and the name of that group is Citizens for Progress, and that group is associated with Haley Barbour,
Wow.
who is
he's got some answering to do on that.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so that's Sean Hannity kind of outing Haley Barbour is behind these race-baiting attacks on a fellow Republican. So much for Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment, and Sean Hannity saying directly to Haley Barbour, look, Haley, you've got some answering to do on these race-baiting ads. We'll be right back after the news. Hang on. Those of you that are online, we'll take your phone calls coming right out of the news. So Danny, Lee, Dwight, hang on. We'll get to you as soon as the news is over. Be right back. Focal Point AFR Talk.